Welcome back to Pigeon Man, and today we're diving into one of the most closely guarded secrets in pigeon racing, the advanced selection techniques that top fanciers use to identify future champions before they ever see a race basket. If you want to learn how to spot winning potential in young birds using methods that most fanciers have never heard of, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because what I'm sharing today could save you years of disappointment and thousands of dollars in lost opportunities. What I'm about to reveal isn't based on old wives' tales or superstitions that have been passed down through generations. These are scientifically based assessment methods developed by some of the most successful fanciers and breeding programs in the world. I've spent over 2 decades learning these techniques from champions in Belgium, Holland, Germany, and the United States. And what I'm sharing represents knowledge that many fanciers would prefer to keep secret. The biggest misconception in pigeon racing is that you need to wait for race results to know which birds have potential. This simply isn't true. By the time a bird proves itself in actual competition, you've already invested months of training, feeding, and care. The smart fancier learns to identify champions much earlier in the process, allowing them to focus their resources on birds with genuine potential, while eliminating those that will never achieve greatness. Let me start with something that will surprise many of you. The most important selection decisions should be made before birds are even weaned from their parents. I'm talking about Nestbox evaluation, where experienced fanciers can predict future performance by observing behavior patterns, physical development, and family dynamics that most people completely overlook. When I visit the nest boxes of my breeding pairs, I'm not just checking on general health and development. I'm looking for specific indicators that correlate with racing ability. The strongest youngster in the nest isn't always the best racing prospect. Sometimes it's the one that shows the most curiosity, the quickest reflexes, or the most balanced development between muscle and frame size. One of the most reliable early indicators I've learned to recognize is what I call eye development progression. A future champion's eyes change in specific ways during the first few weeks of life. The iris develops deeper colors, the pupil responds more quickly to light changes, and there's an alertness that's visible even before the birds leave the nest. This isn't mystical eye sign reading. This is observable physiological development that correlates with neurological maturity. The physical assessment techniques I use have been refined through decades of correlation studies between early evaluation and later performance. When birds are 4 to 5 weeks old, I begin what I call the champion assessment protocol. This involves evaluating bone structure, muscle development, feather quality, and most importantly, the balance between all these elements. Wing structure analysis is perhaps the most critical physical assessment skill any serious fancier can develop. The wing isn't just about flight mechanics, it's a window into the bird's genetic potential for speed, endurance, and efficiency. I examine wing length relative to body size, the flexibility of wing joints, the spacing and alignment of primary feathers, and the overall wing loading characteristics that determine how efficiently a bird can convert energy into forward motion. But here's where most fanciers make mistakes in wing evaluation. They focus on overall wing length or specific feather measurements, without understanding the relationships between different wing components. A long wing isn't automatically better than a shorter one. What matters is proportion, flexibility, and the bird's ability to adjust wing configuration for different flight conditions. The muscle evaluation techniques I use were taught to me by a Belgian fancier whose birds have won national races for over 30 years. He showed me how to assess muscle fiber type by feel, how to evaluate muscle attachment points for power generation, and how to predict stamina capacity based on muscle distribution patterns. These aren't techniques you can learn from books. They require hands-on experience with thousands of birds over many years. Breathing assessment is another advanced technique that separates serious selectors from casual fanciers. A bird's respiratory efficiency can be evaluated through careful observation of breathing patterns at rest and after mild exertion. Future champions typically show larger lung capacity, more efficient oxygen exchange, and quicker recovery from respiratory stress. This information is incredibly valuable because respiratory fitness is fundamental to racing performance. The skeleton evaluation methods I use focus on bone density, joint flexibility, and structural proportions that determine a bird's mechanical efficiency in flight. I assess the keel bone for proper development, check leg bone straightness and strength, and evaluate the skull shape and size that houses the brain and sensory organs critical for navigation and flight control. By the way, if you want to learn more about maintaining the health of these carefully selected birds throughout their development, check out my friend's channel Pigeon Healthy. They specialize in natural health solutions that protect your investment in superior genetics. Their methods are essential for any serious breeding and selection program. I'll put the link in the description below. Bloodline analysis for selection goes far beyond simply looking at pedigree papers. Real bloodline evaluation requires understanding genetic compatibility, performance patterns across generations, and the specific combinations that produce exceptional athletes. I maintain detailed records of performance characteristics that run in family lines, including not just race results but physical attributes, health patterns, and behavioral traits. The most successful fanciers I know don't just breed their best racing birds together and hope for the best. They understand genetic principles like hybrid vigor, line breeding effects, and the importance of maintaining genetic diversity while concentrating desirable traits. They study pedigrees going back 6 or 8 generations, looking for patterns that predict success rather than just famous names. When evaluating bloodline potential in young birds, I look for specific genetic markers that tend to be inherited together. Birds from proven distance bloodlines often share certain physical characteristics, behavioral patterns, and physiological traits that can be identified before any training begins. Understanding these genetic signatures allows you to make informed selection decisions based on probability rather than guesswork. Performance prediction methods involve combining all the assessment data into reliable forecasts of racing ability. This isn't fortune-telling, it's statistical analysis based on observable characteristics that correlate with competitive success. Over the years, I've developed scoring systems that weight different evaluation criteria based on their predictive value for specific types of racing. For example, the characteristics that predict success in sprint racing are different from those that indicate distance racing potential. A bird with perfect sprint conformation might struggle at longer distances, while a bird built for endurance might never excel in short, fast races. Understanding these differences allows you to match birds to appropriate competition categories. The behavioral assessment techniques I use are based on understanding that racing pigeons are athletes, and like human athletes, mental characteristics often determine who succeeds under pressure. I evaluate courage, intelligence, stress tolerance, and competitive drive through carefully designed tests that reveal personality traits crucial for racing success. One behavioral test I use involves observing how young birds respond to new environments. Future champions typically show curiosity rather than fear, explore new spaces confidently, and adapt quickly to changes in routine. Birds that show excessive nervousness or aggression often struggle with the stress of competition regardless of their physical abilities. Training responsiveness is another behavioral indicator that predicts racing success. Some birds embrace training challenges and seem to enjoy the work, while others resist effort and avoid exertion. The birds that show enthusiasm for training generally develop into better racers than those that have to be forced to participate. If you're finding these selection secrets valuable, smash that like button and let me know in the comments which evaluation techniques you'd like me to explain in more detail. The health screening methods I employ go beyond basic veterinary checks to include genetic health markers, immune system strength, and physiological efficiency indicators. Many genetic weaknesses don't become apparent until birds are stressed by training or competition, but careful early screening can identify potential problems before you invest time and resources in birds that will ultimately disappoint. I work with avian veterinarians who understand racing pigeons to develop health screening protocols that reveal hidden weaknesses. Blood work can identify genetic conditions, immune system deficiencies, and metabolic problems that affect performance. While this level of health screening requires investment, it pays for itself by preventing the much larger costs of training and racing birds that can never reach their potential. The selection timing strategies I use are based on understanding that different characteristics become apparent at different stages of development. Some traits are visible in the nest, others emerge during weaning, and still others only become clear during early training. Knowing when to evaluate what characteristics allows you to make informed decisions throughout the development process. I typically make my first major selection decisions when birds are 6 weeks old, eliminating obvious problems while retaining anything with potential. The second major cut comes at 12 weeks after initial training assessment. The final selection for serious racing development happens around 16 weeks when most characteristics have become apparent and training responses are clear. Environmental factor consideration is crucial for accurate selection because genetic potential can only be expressed under proper conditions. A bird with championship genetics will never show its true ability if raised in poor conditions, fed inadequate nutrition, or managed improperly. This is why selection must consider not just the bird's characteristics but also your ability to provide the environment needed for optimal development. The correlation studies I've conducted over 25 years of serious selection work show clear relationships between early evaluation scores and later racing performance. Birds that score in the top 10% of my evaluation system have an 80% probability of becoming above-average racers, while birds in the bottom 10% have less than a 5% chance of significant racing success. These statistics might seem harsh, but they reflect the reality that racing ability is largely determined by genetic factors that can be identified early in development. Understanding these probabilities allows you to make rational decisions about which birds deserve your limited time, money, and training resources. Record keeping for selection purposes requires maintaining detailed databases that track evaluation scores, training progress, race results, and breeding outcomes across multiple generations. This information becomes invaluable for refining your selection criteria and understanding which evaluation methods provide the most accurate predictions for your specific breeding program and racing conditions. Technology applications in modern selection include genetic testing, digital measurement tools, and computer analysis systems that can process evaluation data more accurately than manual methods. While technology doesn't replace the need for experienced evaluation skills, it can enhance accuracy and consistency in selection decisions. Some fanciers now use genetic markers to identify birds carrying specific performance-related genes. Others employ digital imaging to measure physical characteristics with greater precision than manual evaluation. Computer programs can analyze pedigree data to predict genetic combinations with higher probability of success. The economic aspects of effective selection cannot be ignored because every bird you choose to develop represents a significant investment in time, money, and opportunity cost. Feeding, housing, training, and racing a bird for one season can easily cost several $100s, not counting the value of your time and effort. Multiplying this by the number of birds in your racing team shows why accurate selection is financially critical. The psychological challenges of selection work include overcoming emotional attachments to particular birds, accepting that even careful evaluation isn't perfect, and maintaining objectivity when making difficult decisions about birds you've raised from baby. Many fanciers struggle with culling promising birds that don't quite meet their standards, but this discipline is essential for long-term success. International differences in selection methods reflect varying racing conditions, competitive levels, and cultural approaches to pigeon keeping. European fanciers often emphasize different characteristics than American racers, and these differences have developed based on the specific challenges and opportunities in each racing environment. Learning selection techniques requires years of hands-on experience with large numbers of birds, careful record keeping, and honest evaluation of your prediction accuracy. Nobody becomes expert at selection overnight, and even experienced fanciers continue learning and refining their methods throughout their career. Speaking of continuous learning and improvement, if you haven't subscribed to Pigeon Healthy yet, you're missing out on natural health solutions that support proper genetic expression in your carefully selected bird. Their treatment methods ensure that superior genetics can reach their full potential without being limited by health issues. The common mistakes in selection include overemphasizing single characteristics, making decisions too early or too late in development, ignoring genetic background information, and failing to consider your specific racing conditions and goals. Understanding these pitfalls helps you avoid the errors that cause many selection programs to fail. Future developments in selection methodology will likely include more sophisticated genetic testing, artificial intelligence analysis of physical characteristics, and better understanding of the neurological factors that determine racing ability. However, the fundamental principles of careful observation, detailed record keeping, and systematic evaluation will always remain important. Drop a comment below and let me know what's your biggest challenge with young bird selection. Are you struggling with physical evaluation techniques, bloodline analysis, or maybe timing your selection decisions? I read every comment and often use your questions to create future videos. The integration of selection methods with breeding programs requires understanding how evaluation criteria should influence pairing decisions, how to maintain genetic diversity while concentrating superior traits, and how to balance proven performance with genetic potential in your breeding loft management. Advanced selection also involves understanding the limitations of evaluation methods, accepting that some outstanding birds will be missed by any system, and maintaining flexibility to adjust criteria based on changing racing conditions or new understanding of performance factors. The mentor relationships that accelerate selection skill development often involve spending time with experienced fanciers who can demonstrate evaluation techniques, share their decision-making processes, and provide feedback on your developing assessment ability. These relationships are invaluable for shortening the learning curve. Competition analysis skills help refine selection criteria by studying the characteristics of winning birds from other lofts, understanding regional performance patterns, and identifying traits that succeed under specific racing conditions. This information feeds back into your selection methods to improve accuracy. As we wrap up today's discussion, remember that advanced selection techniques are tools that enhance your ability to identify superior birds, but they cannot replace good genetics, proper management, and systematic training. The most sophisticated evaluation methods in the world cannot make a poor bird into a champion, but they can help you recognize champions early and focus your efforts where they will produce the best results. The most important principle in selection work might be this: patience and systematic evaluation beat rushing to judgment every time. The fanciers who achieve lasting success in breeding and racing are those who develop reliable evaluation skills, maintain detailed records, and make disciplined decisions based on objective criteria rather than emotional attachments or wishful thinking. Before you go, I want to hear from you in the comments below. What selection methods are you currently using, and how successful have they been in predicting racing performance? Are there specific evaluation techniques you'd like me to demonstrate in future videos? Drop a comment and I'll do my best to help you improve your selection accuracy. Also, if this video helped you understand advanced selection techniques better, please give it a thumbs up and share it with other serious fanciers who could benefit from these proven evaluation methods. The more fanciers who understand proper selection principles, the better our sport becomes. Don't forget to subscribe to Pigeon Man if you haven't already. We've got incredible content coming your way, including upcoming videos on genetic testing applications, breeding program design, and loft management systems that support superior bird development. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest video. And remember, for natural health solutions that ensure your selected birds can express their genetic potential fully, check out Pigeon Healthy. Their methods are essential for any serious breeding program focused on developing champion racing pigeons. Thank you for watching today's video. In our next video, we'll be discussing the complete loft design secrets that championship breeding programs use to optimize bird development and performance. These are facility design principles that most fanciers never consider, but that make enormous differences in breeding success and bird quality. Until then, keep evaluating those birds and keep learning with Pigeon Man.